Hi, this is Brian Brown with another edition of Keep the Family. Today I want to talk about what's going on in Massachusetts. As Executive Director of the Family Institute of Connecticut, we get a lot of calls from people wondering, as the first state that forced same-sex marriage on its people, what's going on in Massachusetts? Why aren't the people being allowed to vote on this issue? Well, it's actually very complicated. Back in 2004, the Supreme Court forced same-sex marriage on the state of Massachusetts. Obviously, there was no precedence for this, there was no history for this, but the Supreme Court in its wisdom decided that marriage would no longer be what the people of Massachusetts knew it was, but they were going to make up a new definition. Almost immediately after this, the people of Massachusetts did work together to try and define marriage as the union of a man and a woman in their state constitution. But the other side is very smart. One of the reasons why Massachusetts was picked on the state level to be focused on to force same-sex marriage on the people was because it's very difficult in Massachusetts to pass an initiative or referendum. What needs to happen in a state like Massachusetts is the people have to gather a number of signatures, over 100,000 signatures. Then, after making sure all the signatures are valid, the amendment goes to a vote on the part of the legislature. But it doesn't only need one vote, it needs two votes. And it needs currently about 50 votes in the legislature. Now, 50 doesn't sound like a lot. It's 25% of the legislators needed to vote yes on this. But given the stranglehold that basically liberal Democrats have on the Massachusetts legislature, it was not that easy to muster those votes. But still, for the first vote, the people won, and the legislators voted, 55 legislators voted to allow the people to vote. Well, along comes a second vote through the legislature. Now, what happened in the second vote was much different. All of the national organizations promoting same-sex marriage knew that this was the key vote, and they put their effort, money, time, resources into stopping the people from voting. Not a very good campaign slogan, but the supporters of same-sex marriage weren't hiding it. In fact, one of their slogans was, the people don't have the right to vote on rights. So they were clear. They did not want to allow the people to vote. Why is this? Well, because other than Arizona, every state that the people have been able to vote directly on the question of whether marriage is the union of a man and a woman have voted to define marriage as the union of a man and a woman and to protect it. So no matter what was going to happen, the people supporting same-sex marriage did not want to vote in Massachusetts. So immense pressure was put on legislators. Now, the legislature had already voted 55 votes. They already had 55 votes, so votes had to be changed. Well, national Democratic leaders came in and put immense pressure on Democratic legislators to toe the line and to vote against allowing the people to vote. Nancy Pelosi and others were calling and basically saying this cannot be an issue in the 2008 elections. Why would it be an issue in 2008? Well, after the legislature, if they had voted yes this time, the referendum would have occurred in 2008. That would have had implications for the whole country because same-sex marriage again would be a key issue, just as it was in 2004. And no matter what happened, they did not want that to occur. So pressure was coming on legislators from national Democratic leaders, but it was also coming from the governor's office. There are all sorts of stories in Massachusetts of the governor using as much pressure as he could, including a lot of horse trading, basically saying, well, if you vote our way on this, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to have a job with a great pension after you retire as a legislator, et cetera, et cetera. And this was not an open secret. Everyone was talking about this. So given all of this pressure, a number of legislators turned. These legislators betrayed the people of Massachusetts, and they voted to disallow the people from voting on marriage. By doing this, they've basically ended the process for now for a state constitutional amendment. So where do we go from here? Well, first of all, there's another election coming up in 2008. All of these legislators, some of them who campaigned on traditional marriage and who campaigned on voting yes on a constitutional amendment defining marriage, people need to remember their names. People in their district need to remember who they are. any legislator who stood up and said, yes, I will protect marriage, and then went in and voted against it needs to be held accountable. Secondly, while this process is over for now, this process can be begun again. The process for dividing marriage can be begun again in Massachusetts. Now, it's a long process. Even if the signatures were gathered today, there wouldn't be a vote until 2012 on the part of the people. But this was never going to be easy in a state like Massachusetts, and we can never give up. We need to continue to fight on. We need to refuse to be cowed. We need to be refuse to be told that this is over. Again, this is one of the ploys that proponents of same-sex marriage make. They say, it's done, it's over, go home. They want us to be muted in our defense of marriage. We can't listen to that. In 2004, they said this after the Supreme Court case. They said this after the first vote in the Constitutional Convention. They said it after the second vote. They're going to continue to say this. And third, we need to highlight the ways in which same-sex marriage has clearly had an effect on Massachusetts. The fact that Catholic Charities can no longer adopt out the most challenging children that it's very difficult to find homes. Catholic Charities was the one group that was taking care of this. We need to highlight the fact that men like David Parker have been told, you don't have a right to your child learning what you want them to learn. Your kindergartner needs to learn that daddy and daddy is the same thing as a mommy and a daddy. We need to highlight this to our friends and family. Thank you for being with me today. In the next edition, we'll talk more about what you can do to defend the family, to keep the family. Thanks again.